last sign I saw said Carthage, or whatever that is. And then I was also in, I forget what the name of the town was, like Dutch Crossing or something like that. It basically implied that it was probably some type of like Amish country. I'm always curious about these people that live like way out in the middle of like nowhere. This in some of these yards they look like geez, what was that National Lampoon movie with the family that had like the RV and the disheveled house or whatever, kind of like what we just saw just a moment ago. My brain's not working right now after a long weekend, but a good weekend. It's for my uncle's 75th birthday. See, Denmark Mennonite Church. So yeah, my assumption was correct. I don't think I've ever seen a Denmark Mennonite church, but Mennonite is just another way of saying like Amish. Still beat the hell out of their children and churn butter. I can dig it though. Lots of farmland, like acres and acres of farmland. Driving, I mean, we're still in the middle of it. So this is mainly a farming community. There was what appeared to be like a, in quotation marks, a downtown area. You still see some of these like pretty large homes like these out in the middle of nowhere, but you know a lot of these farmers make a lot of money. It's weird, right? Because throughout history, like how do I say this? So relative to its own time, obviously, you know, money kind of like indicates quality of life, but like, you know, a relatively poor person now lives like way better than, you know, like a king in the 1800s or 1700s or something. That's what I'm trying to say. So, but you figure when you live like this out here in like vast amounts of farmland, I'm so happy that state trooper or whatever it was, I'm assuming that's a state trooper that was like parked out there, didn't come out and get me. Because New York state troopers are famous for like just grabbing people, even though I'm driving like well within the speed limit. I'm just chilling right now. I've long since learned that like, you know, going on a blast for like long stretches of whatever of road doesn't really quicken the pace for your trip, unless you're doing it for like hours on end, which, you know, who's really doing like 80 plus for like an hour, 2 hours on end. I do remember doing something similar to that when I was out west, where, you know, in the desert, where there's just like long expanses of road, like next town is like 500 miles away or whatever. But in general, it's like hard to do. It's dangerous. You're better off just cruising around the speed limit. Of course, it's New York, right? So instead of like 65, it's like 55 up here. But it's cool. I like taking in the sights. I'm in this stretch. I think I remember hitting this last time. It's going a lot faster than it did last time. But like I'm in town. It looks kind of like a highway, but it's like not really. Wow, that's dangerous. That's just kind of like, sorry, I passed over the median little like rumble strip. But that right back there was just like kind of like a mini cliff. If you went over just a little bit over to the right, like literally like, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet to the right, you would just fall off. There was like nothing there. I'm still eminently fascinated by like you know, civil engineering and who thought to make these. You see that right there, that I don't know if it's like a mobile home or if it's a modular home, but there's like a lot of that out here where they're like not really homes. You know, they probably came in on a flatbed and dropped it off there, which is like, you know, a clear indication of like the you know, money or lack thereof here. I'm sure it's like New York City and Long Island and like, you know, around like Westchester County that pushes up the overall you know, wealth and income of the state of New York, because a lot of it is just this, what you see here. I remember this one kid, he was from Maine. I mean, I won't say his name. Hopefully he's still with us. I mean, he would be young enough, right? He should be my age. And he was from a farming community, like up in Maine. You know, Maine is like considerably bigger than it looks like on a map. Certainly a lot bigger than Massachusetts. But he still came down to the City Slickers in Springfield, and I think he was a mechanical engineering major. But if I remember correctly, he was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go back home and work on my family's farm. So in other words, like he had money. He was actually quite the basketball player. He wasn't on the team, but like, he played in high school and stuff. And whenever we played like intramurals and stuff, I remember there's one game, the start of the game, he must have hit like the first like 5 jumpers in the intramural game, and like not one of those shots hit the rim. Quite the athlete too. Like he had an Achilles strain. This is before I had blown my Achilles, and he said like, yeah, just keep stretching it, and he could bang too. Like he was a one-legged jumper, so he could like run up and throw it down easy. Like my height too, like 6 foot 6'1", pretty athletic. I think he was on the football team. Yeah, he was on the football team, like a wide receiver. But his real, like I guess you could say, background was track and basketball. Cool cat. But yeah, he was just gonna come back up here. Well, Maine, but same idea, to work on his family farm. But he was majoring in engineering. I wonder if he reversed course at some point. I was like, yeah, you know what, I can probably, well, I can't say he'd make more money, but he can make good money as an engineer. Especially back in those days. I know AI is kind of displacing a lot of people, a lot of like engineers and computer science people and coders and stuff like that. Who'd have thunk that me in finance would have one of the more stable type jobs going. Darn rumble strip again. Actually, it saves lives, really. So, and you see them mainly in blue states. You go to some of the other states in the south and stuff, and they don't really believe in these strips on the outer perimeter and the middle of the crossing the median. But they really are, especially if you're tired at night and stuff like that, they help. But yeah, the weekend was a success. The only thing I can see, and I already put like my photos up and stuff. I have many photos, but I put up as many, I guess, as I'm willing to on Instagram without overexposure and saturation really is a thing. So I try to thread the needle. The Bluebird, what is it? There we go again. What is the Bluebird? Is that like a restaurant, or I can only focus on so many things while I'm driving? But as you can see, nightfall is upon us. You can see my navigation went to blue to indicate night. It's what time is it now? It's like 8:08. Back into 5G. So that's my Apple CarPlay's way of saying that I'm no longer really in the middle of nowhere. For a while, I was just in like 4 LTE, and I think I might have even got into 3G in certain places. It's a very like postcard-looking mill/farm. I can't tell if someone is in that house. So it's just an old house. It looks kind of like run down. Damn near looks like a set piece in like Castlevania or something. As you can tell, there's no street lights out here or anything like that. So it's about to get pitch black in probably less than an hour. Of course, we're in that point of the year where each day is like a minute or two longer, and we'll have like peak daylight, I think, like June, like late June sometime, like 25th, 30th, somewhere around there. Really helps with the drive though. When I did this, when was I last here? I was just like here last month, what am I saying? But then before that, I was here maybe a few months prior, but the point is, even last month, it was certainly pitch black by now, and probably was for a good hour or so. As you can see, my slated arrival back in good old Springfield, Mass is like right at midnight. Before I'd stopped at the gas station, as I was running quite low on gas. But it's a game I like to play sometimes to my detriment, at least in the past, not in a long time. You definitely don't want to run out of gas out here, but that added about, I don't know, the better part of 20 minutes to my drive. But of course, well worth it when you're low on gas. And I got that mystery meat double cheeseburger. It was decent. Cheeseburgers, or just red meat in general, I shouldn't say that, burgers in general, because like goat is red meat, or oxtail and I don't know, emu meat or something like that is probably considered red meat, even though that's a bird technically. That can come out bad, but usually it's hard to have a bad burger. But I have to say that was like a decently mediocre burger. It certainly wasn't like I don't know, Five Guys or wherever. Even though Five Guys will like immediately clog one of your arteries. What is this, like a small hospital right here? Yep, Lewis County Health Systems. Yeah, it is a general hospital. And it's like small too. Looks more like a large clinic than a hospital. So yeah, the only bad externality of the weekend is I cut my thought off about 3 times already, is my cousin. So as you know, I think I had spoke about it on episodes before, if you will. I don't want to get too deep into family business, but of course it's a guy, right? So my 2 cousins, how can I say this without saying too much? So basically in their past, one was dating a guy, kinda, let him be. I think I just drove by a high school, but I wasn't paying attention. Oh, they have a key bank up here too. And then kind of like let him go, but then my other cousin, the one that I stayed with, I guess ended up getting with him. Not guess, she ended up getting with him later on, and has her 3 children by him. They got married at one point, no longer so. And as a result, they've been beefing. Apparently, I guess I'm obtuse. Oh, I'm coming up on my turn. I wasn't even paying attention. I guess I'm obtuse because, I come up and visit often enough, and I've been, in my adult life, been coming back up here since, 2010. So, 16 years now. And I didn't even realize my cousin who I stayed with, her eldest daughter, who is now studying law in England. I don't think it's Oxford, but it is a pretty prestigious law school out there, rather than staying here at University of Toronto or whatever. And it was at her birthday, so this must have been her 7th birthday or so. I'm assuming she's 22, 23 now. And I didn't even realize that they weren't talking to each other. And apparently the beef had been going on since before then. I'm just a go along, get along type of guy, especially with my family or whatever. And I didn't realize that they were, at loggerheads or whatever. And so the problem is, I think I had told you before, they intentionally live far from each other. They're not the only ones. I have other parts of my family too. My cousin's younger brother, where they're just inconveniently spread out. But apparently that's by design. Oh, this is a nice little 53-mile stretch heading towards 90. All right, so what will become the Mass Pike, but it's 90. Even numbers run horizontally, odd numbers run vertically. So it's the same 90 that will take you from Logan Airport, Boston, all the way out to Washington State. So just think of one line that just runs through the northern part of the contiguous United States. So that's where I'm heading towards, but in 52 miles. So 3 hours 45 minutes to go. I feel good. I've actually scrubbed off a minute off of the trip. I'm sure that'll go back and forth. But anyway, they live far apart from each other. So the moral of the story is, or the point is, I stay with my same cousin S, who, as a result of this distance proximity, her closeness to me, because she's about 2 hours closer than the rest of my family. So my aunt and uncle, for the birthday party last night, they're an hour from my cousin whose house I stayed at, but I think they're the midpoint between my 2 cousins, and the point is she's 2 hours away. So it's without really careful planning and desire, frankly, I just can't see her, right? So I did let her know so we could try to get together, but she's oh, I got other plans, da-da-da, but she kind of low-key doesn't like the other part of the family. She's oh, I wasn't invited. I'm you know that you were invited. And she's nope, they didn't invite me. And I'm okay, of course she's invited, but I'm not trying to play therapist or whatever, and also meddle. My mom and aunt made a point of telling me don't get in the middle of it, because before you know it, it'll be oh, disciple said what? That's happened to me before too, in other scenarios. So anyway, long story short, I did not see her this weekend, but at least I extended the olive branch, and I was willing to see her. And anyway, party was a success. It was held right in my aunt and uncle's basement, which is a finished basement. It's an entertaining area. There's a full bar, DJ booth, and all that there. And yeah, we had a good old time. There was, we had catering. My uncle actually cooked some of the food. He's actually a really good cook. And whatever else. There's probably like 50 of us. I discovered that I have like a Guyanese side of the family, which is cool. Because I'm like, wait, why does everybody here look, or half the people here look like East Indian? And they're like, oh, we're Guyanese. I'm like, oh, okay. I had no idea. I'll put some photo up like on my B-roll on my Instagram, just to stagger it, probably maybe tomorrow. As it is, I'll get back home with enough time just to kick my heels up and chill for a couple hours before starting the whole week. I was lucky to not pay any penalty as far as like with work. All my systems work north of the border except for our Jira system, which is how we submit cases and stuff. That didn't work, but that's fine. It was just Thursday and Friday, so I'll pick it up on Monday morning, as it were. So, but yeah, so it's funny how things just insidiously just kind of happen, right? So I can feel, I mean, if it's up to me, I'm not gonna drift away from my other cousin, but I can see clearly the dynamic is being established where I'm closer to one, whereas I tried to be like neutral and equidistant, morally and in terms of like closeness between the two of them. But I clearly have a tighter relationship now with my cousin S compared to N. And it's not like you can move the houses or whatever. It's like, and she's a good hour and a half, 2 hours closer to the U.S. border, so I'm always gonna stay with her because it just makes sense. Not to mention, even though my cousin Ann has a really nice house and with space or whatever, her dynamic with her, her, I think it's really 5 children, but one has moved out, so 4 children. Which is funny. Her wireless like handle is family of 7. That's her boyfriend and her 5 kids. But she really doesn't have space for me like that, so it only makes sense for me to like kind of visit when I go up there here and there. But it would have to be like a longer stay, and you get the idea. So it's just funny how circumstances just circumstance, and before you know it, 20 years from now, oh, you always preferred her over me, and da-da-da. I'm like, no, that was not my intent at all. That was totally geography that you chose because you had like unrelated beef with like parts of the family, whatever. So anyway, life is gonna life. But I'm quite enjoying this drive. It's a good thing I enjoy road trips, because this is really like one of the great pleasures of life. If you enjoy driving and long drives or whatever, it ties in well with my love of cars. I have a lot of friends that are car guys. They wrench and everything, and they love sports cars. They drive manual and all that, but cannot take a road trip longer than like a couple hours. And I'm like, man, you're missing out. This is wonderful. But like different strokes, different folks, and all that. Anyway, it's just my way of checking in, saying hi. I've long since crossed the bridge, that Thousand Islands bridge back to the States. So I've got like 3 hours and 40 minutes back to Springfield. As you can see now, it's almost night in earnest. There's like, I don't know, probably like less than 10 minutes of like daylight, if you want to call this daylight, left. And then it's about to be pitch black, other than my headlights and whatever the oncoming headlights are of the scant few cars that I'll see up here, until I get to probably like Syracuse area, and then it starts to feel more like civilization. But I love it, man. This is the business up here, and then back to life, back to reality. Anyway, the Lord is faithful. Stay with me. God bless.